Kata for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoka Vairocana Mahamudra Mani Padma Pravataya Javala Pravataya
Take a moment to straighten your mats and cushions and then stand facing the altar for the chanting of the 3 refuges. In keeping with our tradition, we will first take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha in Sino-Korean. So just throw your voice in with the sound if you do not know the words, and then we'll do a second time in English. I go for refuge to the Buddha
I go for refuge to the Buddha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please remain standing while I light this special candle in the center of the altar. For the past many weeks, we have been offering 3 prostrations and the lighting of this candle to bear witness to the suffering that is happening in Gaza and in Israel, and also as a wish for peace across the world. So facing the altar, we will make 3 prostrations or 3 standing bows, whatever is accessible for you. Please return now for another brief period of meditation, about 5 minutes. Please join me in some stretching. Good morning, everyone. If I haven't met you before, my name is Jagwa Kelly Davenport. I'm one of the Dharma teachers here in Ann Arbor. It's nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces. Is anyone here for the first time? Oh, quite a number of you. Welcome. I look forward to chatting with you after service to hear what was it that sparked your curiosity to come through that temple gate. So I'll tell you a secret, which is that every time I give a Dharma talk, I think it's really a talk that I myself need to hear. It's something that's coming up in my life. And so I always hope that in the spirit of helping yourself is helping others, and helping others is helping yourself, as we say here, that there will be something that you can take with you that is also helpful in your life. But I never know exactly, and so we'll kind of see how it goes. A couple of phrases were bouncing around in my mind as I was putting together some thoughts for today. And one of them is a phrase that we have in some of the guidelines that were developed here at the temple, and it says, "Work for peace at many levels." That line came to me when we were doing prostrations this morning. Work for peace at many levels. Maybe we could think that is the personal level, working on ourselves, becoming a more peaceful person. Maybe the family level, the community level, out into the world. And the other phrase that I was thinking about is attributed to Ram Dass. Do you know Ram Dass? He was a Buddhist teacher who died a few years ago, American Buddhist teacher. Or was he Canadian? American. Audrey's from Canada, so that's why I asked her. I thought she might know. He said, "If you believe that you are enlightened, go and spend a week with your family." It was very funny. And so I think what I wanted to talk about today is sort of both of those things together. What does it mean to work for peace at many levels? Particularly maybe focusing on the family level. We're in the holiday season for many folks, spending more time maybe with our family of origin. And at least for myself, I don't know why, but I'm always a bit surprised at how much I get caught in the old patterns that I thought maybe I had a little bit more perspective on. And every year I find that I still have a lot more to learn. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some stories from my own experience, and also hopefully some offerings that we can take from our Buddhist tradition to figure out how to skillfully work with family stuff. It's funny because I think many of us come to the temple because when we have our first experience of sitting in meditation with other people, or participating in a retreat, or having a meal here, there's this palpable sense of kind of this quiet joy. At least that's what I felt when I first started coming here. And I felt kind of a little bit less stressed out when I left. And that was very interesting to me, because it didn't really seem like anything had happened while I was here. Sitting, eating, these are things that I do in my house. But it did feel different. And so I think that's what I was originally quite curious to explore and learn more about. And so as I was reading an essay, rereading it because I really like this one, from Norman Fisher, who's another American Zen teacher. This is from a collection called When You Greet Me, I Bow. He talks a little bit about this honeymoon stage where we think maybe we've found the place where it's quite joyful and harmonious all the time. Maybe this is a place that feels like somewhere we can be more appreciated, more understood than we might have been in our families. So I want to read you a little bit about how this unfolds in his experience of joining a monastery. The first stage, the honeymoon, is probably typical of the first stage of almost anything we are attracted to, a time when we're totally thrilled with the life of the monastery. It's moving, it's perfect. We can't believe how lucky we are to have found such a place. The contrast with what we had become used to in the world, or what we're fleeing from in the world, is so great that we're in a state of constant delight. Our fellow monastics are so kind and wonderful. The sounds of the monastery bells, the simple, hearty food, the early morning meditation, the weather, the brilliant teachers, nothing could be better. We're learning every day so much about ourselves. We are delighted by the teachings we hear. They seem absolutely true. They reflect what we have always sensed inside ourselves all our lives without ever really being aware of it or having words for it. We feel relieved and renewed, as if suddenly and unexpectedly, perhaps in the midst of a great sorrow, we are turned around in the middle of our life and found, to our amazement, a new life in which all the old assumptions and behaviors are turned upside down. That's the honeymoon stage. He goes on. All the problems we thought we had escaped, because we thought they were problems in the world and not in ourselves, now appear all over again. This is a shock. Rather than see these problems for what they are, our own internal contradictions, we are so disappointed that they have not disappeared when we were sure they would and had, that we don't take them as our own. We project them outward onto the community. We begin to notice the community's many imperfections and limitations. The food gets tiring. The work seems repetitive and boring. No creativity, no challenge, no appreciation from others for what we do. The people aren't as nice as they seemed at first. They are grumpy, inscrutable, imperious, and worse. Many of them seem clearly disturbed. And how is this possible in a monastery? The early rising, the sleep deprivation, the many large and small restrictions on our lifestyle. There's no space, no time, become grating. We seem to be literally wearing down to a nub. There are several phases after that, actually. We'll share a little bit more later on because it kind of relates to what I want to talk about. Beyond being quite funny, I think, that account, I was thinking about it because I think there's a kind of falling in and out of love with our family of origin that is part of this growing up process. And then I ask myself, well, what is the thing that comes after the falling out of love part? There's many, many years maybe that come after that part, the part where we really see as an adult, man, this was a bit different than maybe I thought it was. How do I relate to these folks? And I also want to pause and just recognize that I'll be speaking kind of from my own experience in my own family relationships. And I also want to acknowledge that for many people, it's not possible to have an ongoing relationship with your family of origin. And so just recognizing that each person has their own wisdom about what is really skillful for them. So as I said, I think this passage from Norman Fischer, it resonated for me because my honeymoon phase is over with my family, and I've been feeling a little bit mired in the sort of the thing that comes after, the falling out of love part, and noticing the stories coming up for me. Well, you know, they just don't understand. They don't make enough of an effort. They don't call me. They cancel plans at the last minute, these kinds of things where I was really feeling kind of misunderstood. And it's quite easy, I think, to go back to that child's mind in how we are understanding our family situation. The kind of small self that didn't have a lot of perspective or resources to really see what was happening. And I was reflecting on some wisdom that Hatu had shared with me, I think a couple of years ago now. We were talking about family situations, I think, and you had said that as you get older, your practice is to try to treat your biological family more like your Dharma family and vice versa. And that was really helpful for me recently when I was kind of struggling with this dynamic of just feeling a lack of care and intimacy with my own family. And so I was feeling quite lucky in the sense of remembering this, because we have many teachings about what does this Dharma family or Dharma friendship relationship look like? What might that look like to try to bring some of the same approaches or principles into this biological family origin? And so immediately I thought of the 6 harmonies. So that is from this little book, our liturgy book. And I want to read the 6 harmonies to you. They were developed for our community here. So this Sangha is part of a wider Sangha. We have temples in other cities. And so our wider Sangha name is the Spring Wind Sangha. And so this is the 6-fold harmony for Spring Wind Sangha. 1, harmonize with each other in conduct and actions. 2, harmonize with each other in speech and talk. 3, harmonize with each other in intention and purpose. 4, seek peace and happiness through the cultivation of precepts. 5, seek peace and happiness through diversity of understanding. 6, seek peace and happiness through sharing spiritual and material benefits. And then there's a little footnote. The way of Buddha is the religion of sentient beings and bodhisattvas. Sentient beings help bodhisattvas engage with their delusive passions, while bodhisattvas care for sentient beings with their sympathy and compassion. As bodhisattvas and sentient beings become good friends to each other, non-dual mutual penetration takes place. Samsara is nirvana, nirvana samsara. So we have these archetypal figures of bodhisattvas. There's some on either side of the Buddha here. And we also have this practice of regular, ordinary people taking up bodhisattva-like vows to help others, to develop ourselves spiritually, to practice our moral discipline so that we can really be of service. And so I was quite struck by this line, which I don't know if I've even noticed before reading this a few days ago. Sentient beings help bodhisattvas engage with their delusive passions, while bodhisattvas care for sentient beings with their sympathy and compassion. So it's describing this relationship of waking up through difficulty, because of difficulty, not in spite of. Really, that is the vehicle that's being described here. So I was kind of making my own little list then, my own experience of, well, what does this sort of the bodhisattva spirit, the spiritual friendship that I've experienced with many people in this community, what might that look like for my family? So the first one I have for myself is standing on our own 2 feet. And for me, that means not going back to that child's mind when feeling very triggered by familiar family relationship patterns and feeling like I'm kind of trapped and helpless. I think maybe we've all experienced that sort of regressing feeling. Standing on our own 2 feet, remembering I'm have a lot more knowledge and wisdom now. I can relate to this situation in a different way. And that's also so important in our spiritual friendships, because we're not telling other people what's good for them. We're really just trying to listen and to say, here's how I'm seeing my life. What is going on for you? And having this kind of really mature kind of relationship as a friend. The second one is to be a compassionate mirror. The friendships that I have experienced in this community, it's not always the kind of friendship that makes you just feel good about yourself. Great job, Joshua. I wouldn't change a thing like that. That's not really what this is about, right? So we are entering into this project together of saying, we want to really learn, and that can be uncomfortable. And so when the message can be delivered through this compassionate mirror, this is what I saw. Sometimes the message, you feel a little bit like, yeah, I needed to hear that, but I'm going to have to process that for a little while. But appreciating that it's delivered through this spirit of really love. The third one is have no expectations. Not trying to get some kind of outcome. This can be really hard for me because my everyday life is in a business context. I have a full-time job. I spend most of my time trying to get stuff done, right? And then in my Dharma life, to really take a step back and have a longer view. What is this unfolding? I can't always identify what the outcome might be. And the last one is be a student and be a teacher. In spiritual friendship, I think there's always this dual relationship of we're learning from each other. We're also helping each other through the way that a teacher can, which is by example, through our words, occasionally offering maybe more direct feedback. But I think a lot of it really is just continuing to show up, really saying, I'm committed. Despite whatever challenges there might be, many of the same people keep coming back here for decades. And that says a lot about their commitment to helping others and helping themselves. So as I was composing this list, I felt, I could do all those things for my family. That would be pretty cool. And I have made some experiments over the last couple of years. And it doesn't always work. So let me tell you a story. A couple of years ago, well, a little bit more than that, maybe it was before the pandemic. My husband's family and my parents were living all kind of in the same area, within an hour's drive or so of Ann Arbor. And my husband was allergic to cats, so we can't go to certain people's houses. So we thought, well, we'll offer to host Thanksgiving for everyone and have the whole family come, and we're going to plan it. It's going to be really special. And my husband's family is Jewish. And so we had always had, or they had always had growing up, Passover dinner. And if you've ever gone to Passover dinner, there's a special book, the Haggadah. The ones that most middle-class Jewish families have were actually made by the Maxwell Coffee House Company, which you may not know. I don't know why they printed Haggadahs, but we have these really beautiful old blue Maxwell House Coffee Haggadahs. And my husband had this great idea, which was, let's make a Thanksgiving version. If you don't know, the Haggadah is basically sort of a formal program for the Passover dinner. It has readings and different inspirations and things. It's also part of the ritual of that dinner, which is quite long usually. So we were going to make a really short Thanksgiving Haggadah. And we put in some Buddhist readings like the Metta Sutta and the Way of the Bodhisattva. And we had some different little activities during the dinner where people could tell a funny story or things like this. And we thought, this is really going to make a nice experience for everyone. So we had them printed and we made the whole dinner. And everyone came over, and it went okay. People participated in the readings, and my mom told a funny story about how when she was had just finished college, she was backpacking around Europe in the 70s, and she was sleeping in her sleeping bag in a train station in Rome, and someone came along and while she was asleep with a knife, slit the bottom of her sleeping bag and stole all her stuff out of the bottom because she had put it down in the bottom of the sleeping bag and crawled in thinking the thieves wouldn't be able to get it. And so she was stranded in Rome for a little while. Anyway, great story. And so, the dinner wrapped up and everyone went home, and we felt like we really brought that Bodhisattva spirit to this Thanksgiving. And then a few days later, a few text messages started to roll in. I don't think we want to come to Thanksgiving at your house again next year. Your home is too small and it was kind of uncomfortable. And then you made us do all those readings. And we were sort of heartbroken, like, oh, we had put in so much thought and care and effort and really thought people would, like this and embrace it. But it was a general consensus that no one really liked it. So we haven't hosted Thanksgiving since then, actually. And so I tell this story because you have to try more than one time. Maybe the first time isn't going to really have the impact that you think. And so I think in retrospect, as I look back on that, it was quite well-intentioned. And it was also a lot of my perspective and opinion that I was kind of trying to put on people and thinking they're going to love this because I like it, and that didn't really work. And so I think just a good lesson for me to kind of take a step back and really try to see a little bit more clearly how can I bring that spirit in a way that can more connect with people. Even just more simple things like calling my parents more often and trying to really listen to what they're experiencing. They have some health issues going on and things like this. And so the line that I was sort of remembering as I was remembering this Thanksgiving event, there's a line in the Dhammapada, which is a collection of the Buddha's teachings, sort of a very short version of it. And it says, your work is to discover your work, and then with all your heart, give yourself to it. And I've heard that many times over the years. When I first started hearing it, I think I thought it was about like a career choice. Maybe that's the path of fulfillment and enlightenment if I just find the right career for myself. A few more years went by, I realized, I don't think that's what it's about. And every couple of years, I kind of revisit that line. It would come up for me. Your work is to discover your work. And I think that this is an example in the sense of, with my family, I'm still discovering what my work is. How can I more skillfully contribute and relate? And still with that well-intentioned spirit of some playfulness, some love, some compassion that we tried to achieve with the Thanksgiving dinner plan. But more attuned to what the situation actually maybe is calling for. So the good news is that work, it seems to follow us around. So even if we're really not kind of ready to pay attention to it, we're going to keep getting examples of our work, because I notice I contribute to similar dynamics in other situations, in workplace situations and with friends and things like that. Oh, right. There's that work again that is sort of unresolved, an opportunity to turn toward it more. So let me read you then a little bit about what happens after the falling in love and the falling out of love in Norman Fisher's experience, because I find it an inspiration. This is the sixth stage, the stage of appreciation. Little by little, this appreciation, which begins as a religious gratitude and is private and quiet and joyful, becomes more normal and ordinary. We begin to take a greater interest in the practicalities of caring for the monastery. And in doing so, we begin to notice how marvelous are all the people with whom we are practicing. We see their many faults, of course, just as we see our own faults, which remain numerous. But as we forgive and are even grateful for our own faults, we forgive and are grateful for the faults of others. Remember the line, the sentient being is helping the bodhisattva awaken from their delusive passion. We see others as they are, but despite this, or because of it, we love them, as we love the sky and the trees and the wisdom of our practice tradition. This love is different from the love we have known before, because this love doesn't include much attachment. We are willing to let people, places, and ideas go. In fact, this willingness to let go is the most essential part of our love. We know that we will eternally be with these people, and that wherever we go, we will see these same people, even if we never see them again. So we don't need to fear or worry. We are willing to see them grow old or ill and die, and to take care for them and bury them, and to take joy in doing this. We cover the grave with some dirt and chant a sutra and walk away full of the joy of knowing that even in the midst of our sadness, nothing has been lost, no one has gone anywhere. So I don't think I've quite gotten to that place yet, but I can see glimmers of it for myself. And the practices, they do work, you know, especially if you do it more than one time. You know, kind of have to keep trying. And so the last maybe little bit, and then we have some time for discussion, is I was thinking about something really that touched me when we were in Korea. The four of us Ann Arbor clergy had an opportunity to go on pilgrimage to Korea a couple of summers ago. And one of the temples that we visited, Korea is quite a mountainous country, you may know, and there's not a lot of usable land. And so the cemeteries at the foot of this particular monastery that we visited were these beautiful white marble, maybe, or granite stupas, like little houses kind of. And so this is a way that they can also make good use of land for burying people. And the nuns said that they have a saying in Korea that when we practice, we're practicing for 3 generations. We're practicing for our parents, we're practicing for ourselves, and we're practicing for our children. And I was really touched by this because I think, at least in the culture that I grew up in, we don't really talk a lot about our ancestors. That's just my white Anglo-Saxon culture that I grew up in. But I started to think about, what would it mean if I thought about my parents as my ancestors, my Dharma ancestors? It really changes the tenor of how I can understand our relationship. Because it really just gives such a much bigger history and a much more deep well that I can draw on in terms of my compassion to really try to kind of understand them. And so I just wanted to offer that inspiration of the practicing for the 3 generations, if that is helpful for you. So we've got a few minutes left. I'm kind of interested. You know, how are you working with any family issues around the holidays? What kind of intention maybe do you find yourself returning to, if you have one? Or maybe it'd be helpful with the support of this group to say, maybe this is the kind of intention that I want to bring into the next few weeks when I feel like things will be maybe hard for me. So I will leave it at that, and we can pass the microphone if anyone has any thoughts.
I'm not going to start my own. Well, thank you for your talk this morning. I really appreciate it. And I too was taught by my teacher. Learn to live without expectations. He said, young child, don't expect anything. Allow yourself to stay open to everything. He said, when nothing is expected, nothing can come unexpected. So I learned just to stay open and receive things equally. That's the spirit of equanimity, to allow things just to come and go. One day we was in a meditation hall and he put a cup in the middle of the floor. And he said, I want you to meditate on this cup and come back and tell me what he revealed to you. And when I told him is that a cup sits open and empty, silent and still, and don't reject anything going in, nor do attach to anything going out. You could put milk, tea, juice, pop, water into a cup. The content change, but the nature of the cup stays the same. Events and circumstances change, but our human nature always stays the same. Nothing disturbs us. We only come to observe, never to be disturbed. And like you said earlier, nothing is created, nothing is destroyed. No birth, no death. I cannot die because I was never born. I'll take another name if I take another form. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, the holidays really bring up family stuff, and I was a nice way to say this would be complaining about one of my sisters to a dear friend who knows us both, and he said, "Man, she just pushes every sister button you have." Yeah, she actually does. But I began to realize I needed to shift from thinking, I can't, why did she do that, blah, 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 to why do I have that reaction? And that's been a fairly profound shift. It's going to take me a long time, but it's that spirit of, sitting on one of these and keep asking, well, what is that? What is that? So, thank you.
Yeah, very similarly to that. I have a kind of a difficult mother-in-law. I find her very challenging to be around for long periods of time. And of course, with the holidays, there's the weight of expectation and nostalgia that, everybody sort of assumes. And it's made complicated this year, especially because her health is so poor that we think that this might be the last year that we have with her. And I was just reflecting on what you said about, honoring our parents as Dharma teachers. And while she's not my parent. You know, she still raised someone who I love very much. And I guess my intention, you know, with what might be the last holiday is to go in with a spirit of gratitude for that and sort of really try to leave behind, you know, everything else and just focus on, you know, there are things that we have conflict about, but I'm so grateful for the son that you raised. I'll let you know how that goes.
Please do.
This one over here, Mom.
I have a lot of respect for people being able to put up with their difficult relatives. I'm usually the difficult relative. I have historically been the stumbling block on which a lot of my family's traditions fall. And, you know, for years we stopped doing presents because I get stressed out around the holiday. I'm not a high achiever, so I put a lot of work into what I give instead of finding just the right thing. And something that I've found in practice is that it's really easy to be the difficult relative. I don't know how hard it is to put up with the difficult relative, but it's significantly harder for me to sort of come back from that second phase you were talking about, Shawwa, where I can join in on things because there's a greater purpose to it. And that's what I'm learning these days. It's a very important time for me to learn that. My mom is out getting surgery in Memphis right now, and in short order, she and my brother and his wife and everyone else are going to convene on our house, and I have to make sure it's up to code, so to speak, when everyone gets here. And I'm grateful to be here this morning because I have a lot more faith suddenly than when I walked in the door this morning.
I was struck by the, I don't know where it came from, but when you said to, that, you know, we can love people despite their difficult parts, or we can love people because of their difficult parts. And that made me think that, you know, the latter is probably the true love, and requires a lot of deep looking, deep seeing into the challenging parts of people. And there's different relationships where I've progressed in different areas. I think the ones where I haven't quite gotten to love someone because of their icky parts is where I want to grow.
Thank you. This is my first time here today, so it's been really nice. Thank you so much. And I've had a medication change recently, so I've had a lot more like kind of fatigue and stuff. And I think it's something that I'm practicing and that I'd like to do for the holidays is like to wake up and just have some more mindful moments and like some awake moments, because it can be really easy to just be like, oh, I'll just sleep for another hour and and then continue being half asleep for the rest of the day. So just have the intention of investing in that awake energy. Thank you.
add one last comment. My wife and I have 18 grandkids and 2 great-grandkids. And every Christmas, she's had a need to buy gifts for everybody. And every Christmas, I lose my hair. You can see it's in the pocket. But I did learn this over the years. Never, ever get between a grandma and her grandkids.
Thank you all for sharing your reflections. I was kind of inspired to just read you one last really brief thing. This is from Nam Sun's resolutions. This is our morning prayer that we recite at practice. I don't know why this is being kind of funny. Every morning. Put it back. Okay, that might be better. Because someone pointed out to me once a couple of years ago. So this is a prayer in which someone's making a lot of big vows. They're going to help all beings, etc. I'll read you the part first. Nowhere will I not manifest myself in all the 10 directions and far and wide help all beings to enter nirvana. Those who hear my name will be freed from the 3 wrongful paths. Those who see my appearance will be delivered from passions. May I thus teach and aid for countless kalpas. Someone pointed out to me once a few years ago that it says, those who hear my name and those who see my appearance. It doesn't say anything about people who heard my words. And so sometimes really kind of to your point, showing up, being present, not even necessarily having much to say, can sometimes be a way that we can find something that we can really offer with our whole heart. Maybe we don't always need to say something. So I think then we'll leave it there for today. Thank you all so much for your comments. And do we have some announcements?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are a few new ones. I noticed it must be a new version of the temple list. You can just find it always right outside the store here. And it'll fill you in. Although there's one thing I noticed that might need to be changed. We are having 2 New Year's services. There's one on 31st at 10 a.m., which is on here. And not 8 p.m. It's 10 p.m. and also 10 p.m.
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Thanks. My mind is like beyond what I'm saying. So, I think it's on the 1st of January at 10 a.m.
11:30.
Oh, it is 11:30.
Yeah, I think it's on there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so it's on the website too, 11:30.
So,
That's usually when it ends, but that's when it's going to begin on Thursday.
so can you remember?
New Year's Eve.
31st,
10 a.m.
New Year's Day.
1st,
11:30
11:30.
a.m.
So you can sleep in on New Year's Day.
Are we? Yeah, we don't have anything going on late at night like we usually do. Yeah.
Party.
Well, I did notice a few other things I could mention. If you're into the 5-day retreat, there's one in Chicago, one in Toronto, and one in Mexico City, which is someplace I would like to go. And we have some more meditation classes starting up January 11th. They're Thursdays, 6:30 to 8:30. And then another one, if you can't make that one, it's February 15th, the next one. So things are starting up again, I think, in the beginning of the new year. Look forward to being here. Nice meeting new people too, and seeing old friends.
there any other announcements? Recovery Dharma meeting at
Recovery
noon.
Dharma will meet at noon today in the historic Buddha Hall next door.
Is there work practice
Yeah,
today?
together action for those who'd like to rake in the rain. It is just outside the door. There are about 7 rakes, and the leaves on the lawn need to be just raked into the beds around. The one that's right next to the wall, just all around into the bed. Yeah. So if anyone is willing, please go ahead. That'd be wonderful.
It's just 15 minutes.
Yeah. I think it can be done in about 5 minutes if everybody, all 7 rakes are done. Matt?
I do have one thing to add about that. In the main lawn between the Buddha Hall and the Sangha House, some of the dirt has been aerated. So rake carefully, please.
Say it again.
The thing I was doing yesterday with the spiky roller, pushing up all the dirt, getting the clover seeds in.
Does more of that need to be done?
No, but it's possible to use a rake to pull all the mud out.
Oh, I see.
Probably not good.
So when you rake strongly. Okay, thank you, Matt.
Okay, so we'll end with the 4 great vows. Please repeat after me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
Would you like us to put away the mats and cushions? Okay, so apart from the mats and cushions touching the red carpet, if we could have your help before you exit the Buddha Hall, putting away the other mats and cushions in the back corner.
Is yoga finished?
Yes.
It is.
Oh,
We
we
do
can
not
just
need to put them away.
scratch that. Yoga class is done and we can leave everything as it is. But please take some time before you exit to smooth everything out, plump the cushion, and then the handle goes at the back. We will stand and make 3 formal bows before we exit.
She's one of the